It's easy to follow Steve Pifer because he says things that I agree with and has said most of the things I was going to say.
So that's why I asked to go first.
You did the right thing. You did the right thing. Let me try to say the same things a little differently, but I think the message that you will hear is very consistent. And I only have 2 points. And the first is this notion of non-zero. And this notion that non-zero outcomes, that is, when both sides win, this is the goal. This should be the goal. This should be the goal for Ukraine, the United States, and Russia in all different permutations. Zero sum, by contrast, is when I win and you lose. And that is what we should avoid. Now, the discussions in Moscow over the last 2 days suggest that certainly the Americans, we are in the business of finding non-zero sum, that is, positive sum outcomes. Some in the Kremlin still have a foot in the past and still look at things in a zero-sum way. Some don't. Some are moving forward. This is important. And the way Steve described it is exactly right. There are non-zero-sum outcomes on Iran. There are non-zero-sum outcomes on Afghanistan. There are non-zero-sum outcomes on a range of issues that can be pursued where the Americans and the Russians can both win and both improve their situation, and their national interest will be benefited by these outcomes. There are areas where there are disagreements. And Steve mentioned that the President mentioned Georgia, and by implication other countries who are eager to assert their independence and maintain their sovereignty, and that obviously includes Ukraine. My second point also follows on points that Steve made, and that is Vice President Biden. The Vice President, of course, will be in Kyiv at the end of this month. He has made points earlier in Munich where he said the same thing that the President has said more recently, but Vice President Biden said him right away, early in this administration. It was very clear that this question of a, as Steve said, big deal or grand bargain, which had been talked about for some time, where all of the different pieces would be thrown into the bargain, including backing off on NATO expansion, including Afghanistan, Iran, North Korea, all would be put into one grand bargain, and that would be the deal. And Vice President Biden, early on in this administration, made it very clear that was not on. That was not on. And he was very clear about no zones of special influence, no spheres of influence, and nations, sovereign nations, have the right to pick their own alliances. So that's, I think that's an important thing, that no grand bargains. And I think you will see in the Vice President's discussions in Kyiv later on this month, reiteration of that point. So let me stop there, Orest, and take your questions.